It's okay. Talking's okay. I mean, talking what do they call the best,
The best pool.
the best pool. That's right, the best pool.
Hi, just popping in here because we didn't record an intro or we didn't introduce what we were doing when we started or after we started recording it. So before I present it to you, let me explain. In PTS, the Discord that I run for anti Scientology chat and notifications and resources and all kinds of fun stuff. We have a book club, and recently our book club has been reading Blown for Good by Marc Headley. And we are so excited that he was gracious enough to have joined us for a Q&A about BFG. It really kind of turned into just a general Q&A. And I wanted to share it. So that's what we're going to be diving into. Marc will be reading the majority of the questions himself and then answering them. And yeah, thanks for checking it out. Be sure to hit like and subscribe if you want more stuff like this, because there definitely will be more of these with other ex-Scientologists or whoever you want me to do it with. We've got about 800, a little over 800 members in our Discord, and I'll put the link in the description below if you'd also like to join in on that. It is free to join, and we'll see you there. All right, on to Marc.
The question that I got was, what does Mark smell like? That was the question. That was the only actual question that was on the list when I last looked at it. That was the question. So, and I said I would answer any of the questions. So I will tell you, there is a company called Mixture, and they mainly make, I think, candles and scents and stuff like that for women, but they have a men's line. And the scent that I use in the men's line is called debauchery. And I use the shower gel and the shampoo and the soap and the face wash and the candles and all that stuff. I love debauchery. The smell of debauchery is it's very pleasing to me. It's a little peppery and a little teeny bit of sweet. And so yeah, debauchery. There you go, guys. That's what I smell like, debauchery. I am going to write another book, and I'm actually pretty much done the outline for it. I've actually done the outline for two separate books, and it's just a matter of getting enough time to sit down and do it. But I do plan to do it for sure. Just how long it takes and when it gets done is only the to be seen. I actually was thinking there's a lot of things that I know that I can't really put into a book without sort of some question of legality and what I can say about certain people and what I can't. And so one of the ideas I had is I'm planning on writing a fiction book, and in that fiction book, I plan to put a lot of the stories in there and just change the names and some of
Mm.
the identifying details, but still have essentially the story in there. So we will hopefully see that one day. Um, but
So what
yeah,
will a
I'm
graphic
definitely good.
novel?
And Claire is also getting her book done, and she's done a bunch of chapters so far. So yeah, I want to look at this question from Michael A. Hobson, the Sneakster. It said, "Question: Do you know if the members of the Gang of Five, Secret History of Miscavige, are not asking you to out them?" Um, I don't know about that. I mean, I think there was a Gang of Five, and there was a Troika, and there was a Fifka, and there was all kinds of these weird names that were for people at the base, but that worked with Miscavige. So I'm not sure if that was during a specific time period or whatever. Question: There are a few times when you mentioned someone was cool or nice in your younger years. In hindsight, do you still think they are cool or nice? I don't know. It depends on who they were. Obviously over the years, I find different things about different people, but most of the people that I knew when I was a kid, I only knew, I only knew certain things about them. So, based on what I knew, I might have thought they were cool or whatever. But I still like Depeche Mode. That was a big focus of my childhood. And a lot of people don't know, but every single chapter title in my book is a Depeche Mode song. And only if you were a Depeche Mode fan would you necessarily know that. So maybe some of the chapters would stick out as a Depeche Mode song, but every single chapter is a title of a Depeche Mode song. Oh, you describe people being cool or awesome that were in the church. Do you think they are still cool? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the people that are still in Scientology because some of those people should know better by this time. I put in the people that I thought was cool when I was there, and I was also trying to explain in the book my view at the time. I tried to put myself in the perspective of the time that was occurring in the book. So as the years go by, obviously my perspective changed. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of any of those guys. Question mark. Now that you've listened to your book, is there anything you would write differently in retrospect? Not really. I mean, I wrote the book, like I just said, I wrote the book from the perspective of myself as myself at that time when those things were happening. And so I tried to keep it authentic to that. Obviously, now I would have a completely different take on a lot of those things. But yeah, I don't. I don't think the guys in Scientology are that cool. I thought Mark is going to read the book now for all of us. That's hilarious. Mike out. Um, I have been like offline for about the past week or so because I went to I took my boys to Texas, and we went to go see the total eclipse of the sun, and we went fishing, and we drove there so that we could bring all our fishing gear, and then we hung out for a few days in Texas, and then we watched the eclipse, and then we drove home. So I was probably off, off the grid for about 6 to 7 days. So I just got back yesterday, and this is my first kind of thing that I'm doing since I've gotten back. We need to put Mark to work. Oh, okay. I thought you were out defeating an alien invasion like any good superhero, Mark. Um, we um we were joking about that when the eclipse was happening, and I don't think anything happened besides the moon went in front of the sun for a little bit. Oh, Mark, those pics were great. It looked like you had the best time, Michelle says. Oh, yes, I did post some pictures. Anybody who's on Facebook, I did post some pictures of our trip and all the fish that we caught. It was pretty awesome.
What impact does bee pollen have on auditing?
Yes, that's a great question. I never had ever heard of a lot of these hacks that I don't know. Maybe they're hacks or tricks or whatever they call it in Scientology. They don't really call it hacks, but tricks, I guess, or techniques, I guess you would say. But when I didn't really have a lot of auditing in Scientology before I got to the Sea Org, and then even after I was in the Sea Org. And so I wasn't really familiar with a lot of this stuff. When you go to get auditing, Scientology auditing, the counseling that they do in Scientology, you're supposed to sleep and you're supposed to eat. And I had been on the night shift for many years up until I was going to get the auditing from Tom Cruise. And I really slept probably anywhere from 5 to 6 hours a night for years. And so when I was supposed to get auditing, I was still kind of tired, even though I was sleeping 7 hours a night. That's what you're supposed to at least sleep 7 hours to be able to go into an auditing session or counseling session in Scientology. And even though I had slept that amount for a day or two, I was still generally just tired. And so I think when you first start a session, you're supposed to breathe in real deep and then you let it out through your mouth. And the needle on the e-meter is supposed to fall a certain amount. I want to say it's two-thirds of the dial. It's supposed to move across. And if you haven't had enough to eat and you haven't had enough to sleep, it doesn't fall that whole way. And so you're not allowed to start the session. And because there was so much attention on Tom Cruise being able to do this auditing, and I show up and that test doesn't work, and I have slept and I have eaten, it's like, well, what do we do? And that's when they have to reach into this bag of tricks where they try to hack the system. And I guess the bee pollen it gives you a little bump in your metabolism. And unfortunately for me, I don't think that really made that much of a difference, because it wasn't like I just hadn't slept that night, and I hadn't slept for years. So they ended up switching me, and I think I say this in the book. I haven't gotten back to that part in what I listened to in the past few days. But Tom wanted me to eat this bee pollen, and I was like, is that even a thing? And I actually didn't even know what bee pollen was until a few weeks ago when I actually looked it up. I thought it had something to do with the honey. It has nothing to do with the honey. It's sort of just like the stuff that collects on them as they're going around to the different flowers and making that into something that humans eat. Even to this day, I don't think I've ever taken bee pollen besides the one time that Tom Cruise gave me bee pollen. I don't think I've ever taken it again since then, and I have no plans to either. But they have other things that you're supposed to do, obviously vitamins and stuff like that, but they have a bunch of other little things that, I don't remember any of those things. Was it Forever Living bee pollen? We have to know. MLM's getting to Scientology. Forever Living. Is Forever Living, do they make soaps and stuff like that? Does anybody in the chat know? I think I have a friend who used to be in Scientology that did this Forever Living. It's either Forever Living or Young Living or something like that. And they make this soap called Thieves Oil. It's a soap. It smells really good. And I have some of that. And the person who gives it to me, she gets it for free from whatever. But I really do like that Thieves Oil soap.
Yeah, Michelle is our resident MLM expert, but she's
Yes.
away from computer.
I don't think that the bee pollen was Forever Living.
Yeah. Is whatever happened to Mark's friend Jesse?
Okay, so my friend Jesse Radstrom, he's the one that when I moved out from living with my mother, when I want to say I was about 13, 14, I moved out and I actually went to live with my friend Jesse Radstrom. And he lived in Tahunga, which was very close to where my school was. The Delphi Academy, the Scientology school that I went to, and we pretty much were like, adopted brothers. And then he went to Clearwater. His family moved to Clearwater, and I actually went with them. And then he joined the Sea Org. When he joined the Sea Organization, it really wasn't practical for me to live with his family, because the only reason I was sort of living with them was just to kind of hang. So Jesse had somebody to hang out with and do stuff with. And now that he was in the Sea Org, I had to go back to Los Angeles, and I moved in with some other people. And then he went on to work in the Commodore's Messenger organization in Clearwater. And then I eventually went to work for the Sea Org in Los Angeles. And when I was working at what was called the Association for Better Living and Education, one of Scientology's Criminon and the Way to Happiness Foundation, Jesse ended up coming back to Los Angeles because he was on clearance lines. He was getting his security clearances to go up to the international headquarters, and so he was, and that gets done in the same building that Abel used to be in, and he eventually went to the international base, and then a few months later, I went to the international base, and so we were friends, and I actually was roommates with him when I first moved to the base. I lived in the same Sea Org dormitory as he did with a bunch of other guys, and we would hang out here and there. And after he was in CMO Int for a few months, he ended up going to Religious Technology Center, which is the organization that David Miscavige is the head of. And the whole time I was at the base, I was only in Golden Era Productions. I didn't go to any other organizations besides Golden Era Productions. And I want to say in the late 90s or early 2000s, he was busted out of Religious Technology Center. His post was the Inspector General Master at Arms, or the IGMAA. And he got busted off that post, and then he got made he got put into the grounds department in Golden Era Productions, and he was in trees. So the people that trimmed the trees. So he went from being in the highest Scientology organization in the world to a tree trimmer in Golden Era Productions. And then eventually he got promoted out of the trees department into the video production department, which was in the same division that I was an executive in. And then we would see each other once in a while. But pretty much once he joined Religious Technology Center, we were no longer besties, and we didn't really hang out that much. And even though he worked in the same division as I did, we didn't really see each other that much. He was mostly out shooting videos and doing stuff like that. But I want to say after I escaped in 2005, he became the he was the cine secretary, which is the head of the division that produces the videos and films, and then he actually became the commanding officer of Golden Era Productions. And somebody who was in Golden Era Productions when right before they escaped, they told me that him, Jesse, and his wife, her name was Tiffany Simmons, Tiffany Radstrom, I guess now. They tried to escape. They packed all their stuff up, and he had a car that his dad had given him when he first joined the Sea organization, and he tried to escape. And they were gonna drive across the property to the other side. That's what they told the security guards. And instead of opening the gates, the security guards came down to the gate and inspected their car, and they found all their stuff in the car, and they didn't let them out. They were busted. So as far as I know, he's still locked up at the international headquarters somewhere, and which is kind of sad. And his father actually passed away within the last few years. But yeah, that's what happened to Jesse. That's a very long, thorough answer. Do you ever go camping now after your experience sleeping outside? That's a great question, Fly Nick. I do not think that I've ever been camping after that. I did so much camping outside at the Ant Base for months and months. We actually slept in these tents, and they were really, really ancient. I want to say that they were the original tents, like they had it like in the MASH 407 7th. And they smelled. They were like mildewy, and they were very old and nasty. And they didn't have floors, so we used trash bags to sleep on. I think we even had the trash bags as blankets. But I think after a little while, they gave us some other kind of thing we could use as blankets that were kind of nasty, or people got, or they gave us these old sleeping bags or something. I'm not really sure what we did. That once you got to go to sleep, it was just sleep time. It wasn't about what you have to sleep with time.
Yeah.
Joni says, Mark, do you have any cool old Scientology related VSH and VHS, I guess tapes, and can I have them? I don't have a single VHS tape except for the wedding that Claire and I, somebody sent us that was recorded on a VHS tape, but I actually don't have a single VHS tape from Scientology, and I'm not really looking for them either. The Snakester says, Mark and I have met in real life at Asho Foundation, by the way. You know, I did meet Michael, and he messaged me, or I saw him chatting in the Discord, and I said, did you used to work at Asho? And he did, and he was the Tech Films. He was like the film IC for the organization that's called ASHO, is the American Saint Hill Organization. That's one of the organizations on L. Ron Hubbard Way in Los Angeles. And yes, I do remember Michael. And let's see what else. Tom Cruise's sister allegedly was an Herbalife. Don't know if they do bee pollen. You know, Herbalife is we talked about this. I think we talked about this a little bit. We did, Claire and I did a video with Michelle and I think, is it Roberta Blevins, their MLM YouTube channel. And there are a lot of Scientologists that do Herbalife. Herbalife was a very popular, yes, a life after MLM. Click and like and subscribe. The Scientologists really are good at doing MLMs because they're already convincing people to do nonsense in Scientology for the most part, or they have a huge cognitive dissonance in terms of that kind of blind spot. So getting people to buy into an MLM is pretty simple for Scientologists, and usually they're pretty successful at it. As far as I can tell, I mean, I don't know. They make enough money to stay in it, I guess. But oh, is it true that each brand of Church of Scientology has its own separate tax exemption status? You know, that is absolutely true, Betsy Sue. So, like the organization that I mentioned, the Association for Better Living and Education, they have their own tax exemption. Then all of the front groups under them, Narconon, Way to Happiness, Applied Scholastics, Criminon, I think they have their own tax exemption 501c3 number. And then WISE, the World Institute of Scientology and Enterprises, they have their own. Church of Scientology International has their own. CST, the Church of Spiritual Technology, they have their own. The International Association of Scientologists, each of those organizations is tax exempt in their own right. So it's not just like one organization. If you took that away, then they'd all lose it. They might. I mean, that could be a thing, but it's really Scientology may be the most bulletproof cult in terms of they've been perfecting it for, 70 years in terms of every time they get shot, they figure out how to patch that hole. And so that's one of the reasons why legally it's really hard to take them down, because they get all the benefits of the legal system, but then they also get the benefits of the religious cloaking. So they're not held to the same standards as everybody else, because the abuse and the criminality that takes place is part of their doctrine, and the doctrine is supported under religious freedom. So you kind of get a double whammy of legally they're pretty tight, and also they get this religious cloaking. They get the benefits of the religious cloaking. So it's really hard. But one thing I was thinking about the other day is that every time Scientology gets sued, you kind of open up a little bit of another crack in the armor, another chink in the armor. And I don't know, don't quote me on the statistic of this, but I'm pretty sure they're settling about one out of every 4 cases. So if they get sued 4 times, one of those times they're settling with the litigants. They're paying them hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars for that case to go away. And the number of cases that are going against them, that people are filing against them, is increasingly success. They're having more success than they used to. So hopefully more people will challenge them legally. And then if more people win those, then the more people that win, the more people that will sue them. And so that sort of was our intention when Claire and I filed a lawsuit against them in 2000. I guess it's 2009 now. In 2009, we were like, well, if people are afraid to sue them, then no one's going to sue them. But if somebody could win against them, then more people would be less afraid. And that is essentially what ended up happening. And even one of the lawsuits that was filed the same time as ours, the Laura D case, if you get your Google Foo out, Laura's case was settled by Scientology. So again, there were 4 cases that were filed. That's a great. That is a good thing. I didn't even think about that. Her case was one of 4 cases that were filed right at the same time. It was Claire and I, a guy by the name of John, a guy by the name of Nikolai, and then Laura. And John and Nikolai's cases were dismissed or canceled very quickly for technical reasons. One of them was Scientology got to one of the people. The other one was a technicality. It was filed a day late because the guy escaped on Thanksgiving. So they filed a lawsuit 4 years later on Thanksgiving, but Thanksgiving fell on a later date. And so that case was thrown out just because they missed the statute of limitations by 1 day. And then Claire and I's case was dismissed, and then we lost on appeal. And then the Laura D case went all the way up to almost going to court. And then the day, I'm pretty sure, like the day it was going to go, and they were going to get a trial date, Scientology showed up with a check. Question: did you do anything special to celebrate Claire earning her GED? Please tell her congrats from us. Yeah, so we went and had a good dinner that day. We had a lot to eat before that, like a few days before that, to a really nice restaurant that somebody had sent us as a gift. Somebody that we did some work with, and so yeah, Claire's good. She had a good celebration for getting her GED. Mark, one of the questions is how we take away COS's nonprofit status. That's from the Sneakster, Michael A. Hobson. The way you can take away the nonprofit status is by getting them convicted of crimes, because a nonprofit's not allowed to be involved in criminal activity. So the more people that the more times Scientology is either prosecuted in law enforcement or the legal system or the Justice Department, those things are the things that are going to threaten their nonprofit status. Not to say they couldn't just start up another organization with a new name and a new title and new whatever and then get tax exemption again, but I think the more and more they're exposed, the tax exemption will eventually have to be taken away. That's our hope. We're trying to really expose Scientology and what they do, and that people can not only survive outside of Scientology, but thrive outside of Scientology and succeed. And I think the more that we do that, the more people there are that are willing to speak out against Scientology and what their experience was. Or in some cases, people have given Scientology millions and millions of dollars. And some of those people, they could care less about the millions of dollars. And some of those people could use those millions of dollars right now. And so, and some of those people that gave the millions of dollars and don't really care about it, they're also the ones that thief and bring it down. But then they have to be willing to put up with the nonsense. Fighting Scientology brings with it a lot of nonsense, and you have to be willing to put up with that nonsense. And that nonsense, I mean, it really never ends. It just never ends. There's always nonsense. So you have to have a very, very high threshold for nonsense to be able to try to take down Scientology and not have it affect you personally. That's my opinion. That's the other thing. Scientology has $3 billion. And I often tell people, if you had $3 billion, how much would you spend to keep it? And I'd argue most people would spend $2.5 billion to keep 500 million, or maybe you spend 2.9 billion to keep 100 million. I don't know, but yeah, that's the thing. When you go up against them, they do have an unlimited legal budget, which most people do not have. The Sneakster said a joke. Henson said Tom Cruise missile, not even a credible threat. That's exactly right. He said we're going to send a Tom Cruise missile, and he got charged for basically making a bomb threat against the Scientology International Headquarters. I was there when it happened, so they were jumping up and down about it when they got him. When it ended up going to court, I think he ended up getting maybe convicted, or that happened after I escaped. But I remember when Keith Henson would protest at the international headquarters when I was there. Question, Ree Henson, did Scientology actually believe the threat was real? Of course not, Betsy Sue. Scientology will twist and turn anything into their favor. And in that case, I want to say that was in Riverside County in California, and they had the district attorney in their pocket. And I even have read it out in some of the documents that I've covered in the spy files, that they would say in the documents, the district attorney in Riverside is favorable to our position, or we have a very good connection, or something of that sort. Keith Henson, a qualified explosive expert, was persuaded that Scientology would have him murdered in prison, so he fled justice and was very effectively destroyed as a PR threat to Church of Scientology. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Question, what do you think about the work Alex is doing in the UK and Europe? Alex is doing amazing stuff. I like to highlight the people that are doing stuff that's actually causing Scientology some problems. And Alex is certainly doing that. And we actually have a video coming out on our channel next week with Alex, an interview that he did with us. And some of that we're going to talk about in that. And so that's coming out next week on our channel. I haven't had any content coming out on the channel because I've been off fishing and doing and just having fun and taking time with my kids. So we'll have that come out next week, and we probably have some other content that'll be trickling out again once we kind of get back into it. I'm doing so much work in my real job that I just don't even have that much time for YouTube anymore. And we don't really make a lot of money doing YouTube. So if I'm got jobs and I've got stuff to do, it's kind of silly for me to be yapping at the YouTube when I've got work to do. Can M said, did you get too much sun again while fishing? And I did get too much sun on one day, and I had a run-in with my youngest because I told him to get the sunscreen out of our little fishing bin, and he said it wasn't in there. And I was so mad at myself for not packing it. And I asked him the second day, I said, hey, can you double check that there's no? He said, yeah, I checked, it's not in there. And so that's the day that I actually got burnt. And then when we were packing up to leave, I looked in the bin, and the sunscreen was in 3 different kinds of sunscreen was in there. It was there the entire time. And so I had words with him. I was like, thanks for really looking, big guy. Do you think that there's any type of legislation from the government? This is from Flynick. Do you think there's any type of legislation from the government that could help shut down Scientology? Like in France, they have now passed a bill through the National Assembly to prosecute people who strongly persuade people to abandon regular medical treatment. They have a dedicated government department that monitors cults. Yes, and it's funny that you mentioned that, and especially the France connection, because when I went to Germany. I don't really remember which year it was now, but I did go to Germany, and I spoke with Jason Begay. We spoke to, I actually went on 2 different occasions, but in both of those occasions, we addressed the Scientology problem over there, but we also met with a lot of European, like the FBI or the police or the legislature or those different types of people for many European governments. And one of the things that I encouraged them to do was to look into the purification rundown, because the purification rundown, L. Ron Hubbard essentially is prescribing vitamins and medical procedures to you from the grave that may be very unhealthy for individuals to do, and they're just blanketly doing it to every single person that does this purification rundown, which is one of the very first things you do when you get into Scientology. And that has been a very successful avenue to kind of limiting Scientology on what they could do in certain countries, because you can't tell somebody to take all that stuff if you're not a doctor. So L. Ron Hubbard certainly can't do it because he's not a doctor, and he's not even alive. So the fact that they have that now is sort of like, not only are they saying you can't pretend you're a doctor, you can't pretend this is medical advice, but now you can't even persuade somebody not to go to a proper doctor, where any doctor that's a proper doctor is going to tell you not to do what they do in the purification rundown. You're taking tens of thousands of milligrams of different supplements, including niacin, which is horrible for your liver and other things, from what I've been told. I'm not a doctor either. This is not medical advice. But yeah, so I think that's a very valid thing that you could do. Also, the Privacy Act, as people's identities and their internet privacy and information is more protected, I'll say, or at least attempted to be protected, Scientology will have huge issues with this, because they have tons of very personal information that they keep on every single person that walks into a Scientology organization, and not allowing them to keep those records would disrupt them heavily. Last June, I was at one of our local parades, and the Way to Happiness people were out handing the booklets. Other than just saying no thanks, is there anything else one should say? XENU says hi. Probably wouldn't do much or be helpful. Would taking a book to recycle compost later and saying, here's my card, but give them an aftermath card and hope they pocket it to look at it later be an idea, or what? This is always a question. People email me all the time, like, why don't you just take a helicopter and fly over their property and dump aftermath flyers on them? Well, that's called littering in the United States. And also, there's very strict FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Administration. I think that's what it's called. You're not. It's sort of a violation of FAA regulations to drop things out of a flying vehicle. So I would not recommend that. And the person that emailed me that is likely in this chat, and or in this thing. And I said, hey, yeah, don't do anything illegal, please. Also, Scientology, depending on what you say, it can be treated as hate speech, depending on who's prosecuting it. And if Scientology has that local law enforcement and sort of district attorney in their pocket, they have gotten people, like somebody said they were going to send a rocket to the base or something like that. I think it was Keith Henson, I want to say. He was prosecuted for threatening to blow up something because he said the word rocket. So you got to be careful when you're messing with Scientology. In terms of what you would give to somebody, I think compassion is I really err on the side of being compassionate with individual Scientologists. Individual Scientologists, for the most part, they're not bad. They genuinely are good people that want to do good things. It's the people that are benefiting from all of this. David Miscavige, the big wigs, these people that give millions of dollars so that they can be the cool guys in that club. And there's a lot of Scientology business. A lot of the guys that give millions of dollars, they have Scientologists working for them for very little money, and all of this Scientology networking benefits them greatly. And that's why they give the millions, because they're making hundreds of millions by being able to tap into this kind of pre-made network of gullible people that'll do things for you. And so David Miscavige is sort of like, if you're going to make a bunch of money off of my people, then you got to give me a good cut of it. And that is why these guys are giving him millions. Most of those guys that are giving him millions of dollars to be patron, Meritonius, Maximus, whatever. Those guys are making a lot more than they're giving to Scientology. They need to be protesting governors, IRS, and everyone needs to film their local org. Sure, absolutely. Question: did it take you time to trust medical doctors after leaving? No, I actually was trusting medical doctors the whole time. I I didn't really get trained in Scientology, and I really didn't get that much counseling besides with the cruiser, whatever you want to call him, Tom Cruise. So I didn't really have any distrust for medical doctors for the most part. And yeah, I trust them. They tell me my cholesterol's high. I try to keep my cholesterol low. Do you have any more spy files? So love those as well as Claire's Shelley series. I do have more spy files. They're just not that. They're mostly more of the same. So if anybody has watched, I've done a bunch of Blown for Good YouTube, and we've put a lot of them on X as well, and a few other platforms and on the podcast. But the ones I have, there's a lot of documents that have very personal details about people that I'm not comfortable reading in any shape or form. And the videos that I have done where there's been some questionable details about people, I have actually contacted the people in most cases, unless they're still in Scientology, then I have no way to contact those because they're not allowed to talk to me and I'm not allowed to talk to them. So if those people have a problem, sorry, you got to sort that out with Scientology. But the people that were not involved in Scientology that I was doing videos on that were covered in the spy files, I actually contacted those people and said, hey, listen, this is the file I'm planning on doing. This is what I'm going to say. This is how we're going to do it. And those people were fine. So, and as a matter of fact, I did send every single file that I had that had like a Tori Chrisman or a Jeff Hawkins or an Amy Scobie or a Matt Pesh or whoever. I sent those people every file that contained their name. Jenna Miscavige, I sent her files. Anybody who was covered in the documents, I sent them their documents. And I told them, I don't plan to cover these necessarily unless you'd like me to. Otherwise, I feel they're your documents to either release them or not or whatever. There's some kind of concern that these documents were kind of gotten by other people. I don't know if they were or they weren't. I'm pretty sure that they were. So if those people end up releasing those people's files or files on people that do have personal details, that's a bummer. It is what it is. What do you think about the current protests? I think any protesting is good. That people are getting involved with something that is much bigger and much more dangerous than they think it is, and that it's sort of kind of a joke and we can all have fun and do the protest. I've done protestings. I've done the going to the Scientology organizations with the placard and all that stuff. Thing that I don't recommend. People can do whatever they want. The thing that I don't recommend is getting aggro and being insulting and sort of just being angry, an angry protester, because the Scientologists are told that's what these people are. They're crazy, they're lunatics, they're screaming and they're yelling. That's what they tell you the SPs are like. So when you act like that, they go, yeah, they're just like Scientology told me they would be. Now, if people want to do that, and maybe I personally have never run into somebody who said, oh yeah, I was at a Scientology organization and this person walked up to the street and started screaming at me, and I thought, oh, I should take a look at what I'm doing. Maybe I'm not doing the right thing. I haven't run into that person. I have run into the people that said, hey, somebody said if I ever needed anything and if I needed to leave, there's people out on the outside that would help, and that genuinely we wanted to help you, kind of thing. And those people we've talked to, and those people have gotten out. So again, any protesting is better than no protesting. I'm not a good judge of how productive that is, because I've never met somebody who got out because of that. And that doesn't say, that's not to say that there aren't people out there that are like that, but I just haven't run into them. And if they and if I have run into them and I forgot, I'm sorry, but I try to take them. Um, you got to realize this person, their relatives, their mother, their father, their kids, their business associates, their boss, the people that work for them. There could be many, many, many people in their life that are connected to Scientology. So if you're going to try to get them to leave that, I think you have to really have a connection, keep all of those people in their lives, as opposed to screaming and yelling at them. Anyway, I'm pretty sure this will be 12 videos in the next week of how Marc Headley hates everything. Michelle Carpenter, I'm back. I knew the good, nice individual people that were in Scientology, but Reese's recorded calls with her mother-in-law and former friend still in really opened my eyes to the self-indoctrination, self-censorship, and reciting the cold script verbatim. More of a comment than a question. Yeah, but that's super accurate. So these people are really they're really indoctrinated, and Scientology is the only cult that I know of that they tell you the rules of the brainwashing, and then they tell you get going, and then you do the brainwashing yourself. So the brainwashing and the cognitive dissonance and the self-indoctrination is constant. You're always doing that. This is so very, very complicated. It's not just they're bad people. They don't know they're bad people. Let's tell them they're bad people. I don't think it's that simple. I personally don't think it's that um, simple. It's so weird to see everyone at a protest live streaming everyone else's face. Oh, is there? Oh, I mean that. Guess that's one of the protests. Yeah, these new protests that they do. I haven't seen that many. I've seen a couple here and there, but you have 10 people at the same location and they're all streaming, but it's each other and you can see them in the backgrounds of each other's streams, and it's sort of like it's. I mean, that's what the kids are doing these days. Comment, they are recruiting online a lot more these days, we hear from exes. That's for Moon Age Daydream. Yeah, that might be the case. They might be doing. See, that's another one where I just, if you've got, and that's where I'm a little conflicted, because if I watch certain YouTube channels here and there. I don't watch. I want to say probably less than 1% of my YouTube content is Scientology related. But I do see YouTubers that comment on these. I think it's called Kick and Twitch, these streaming platforms that the kids are on, and they basically are just a-holes. Like the kids doing the streams are a-holes, and because they're acting like a-holes and they're being super disrespectful and just little shits, that's why people are watching. And I'd hate for that to kind of to bleed over into how these protests, where you're basically being an asshole to Scientology, and that's why people are watching. But like I said, if that's your gig and that's how you make a living, then I don't, nothing I say here is gonna stop that. Oh, those protests are about the live streamers. Everyone there is live streaming. It's so different than what I understand protests to be. I don't want my face filmed at a protest. Yeah, so that's where it also becomes a little. That's a good point. Gay Dave will say it. If somebody goes there to protest and they want to do it on the sly, they can't, because you're now have 10 people there live streaming it. So it's kind of counterproductive if you want to get a quantity of people. But at the same time, if one of those people's got 40,000, subscribers or viewers or whatever they call it, whatever their platform they're on, followers, it is what it is. It's not for me. Sorry. Question, is the number of people requesting help to leave increased year on year since founding? Oh, absolutely. We have been seeing since last November, a lot of the aftermath stuff has really picked up. We've been getting in a lot more donations. That's another thing. I will, for the record, I will state the amount of revenue that or donations that the Aftermath got from YouTube is very minuscule compared to the donations that we get from all sorts of other avenues, the government programs, the monthly don't fix donations that people are donating, the investment funds that have the Aftermath listed. So people that have, some dough that have to give away a certain amount of charity each year to not have to end up paying that in taxes. Those donations that come in are highly they're a lot more than YouTube. I'll just say that. They're a lot more than YouTube. So a lot of people are thinking, oh, we're not doing so much stuff on YouTube. We're probably not getting, no, we're getting the stuff that we're doing behind the scenes and the stuff that we're doing to help people and the billboard campaign and all these sort of things. Those are what generate revenue for the Aftermath, or donations for the Aftermath Foundation. And YouTube, I want to just say, pound for pound, YouTube is not the best place for us to raise money for donations. So yeah, it doesn't hurt, but it's not a lot compared to these other things. We could make one donation could be more than what we made in YouTube in 6 months. So and we're always looking for new things. We're looking at somebody suggested a Kroger program, the grocery chain. We're looking into that. We get a lot from these other programs that I mentioned. So someone asked earlier, but I don't miss the answer, but how is helping people escape different now with the nonprofit as opposed to doing it all on your own before? That's a great question. Claire and I would pay for everything ourselves out of our pockets. That's what we did up until the Aftermath. We helped many people. I'd say over 20 individuals, I want to say, that we we found out they were out. We helped them either get to somewhere where they would be safe. And then, I will tell you right now, I bought a guy a car, got him an apartment, got him a job. I got many people jobs, many people places to stay. Loans I want to say I personally have probably given out at least 15, 20 loans myself. And some of those people, might still owe me something. I don't know. I don't keep track that much. But some people paid me back. Some people paid me back in services, or, we traded something eventually because I never got paid back. But, it is what it is. If I kind of feel that it would be, even though, I want to say there was nobody like me to help me. My dad was there. My dad helped us with a place to stay, and he didn't have any money to give us. He had a room basically, but that room was my new base of operation, and that allowed me within a month or two to get an apartment and start working and get a car and all these things. And I really think that that's really all most of these people need, is that to know that there is somewhere where they can go and somewhere they can be safe and stay and not worry that they're going to get snatched up by Scientology, and just kind of help them reacclimate to the world, and maybe give them some tips and pointers on how they, what are the things that they can do right away to make some money and get educated and get on their feet, and not have to be the victim, quote unquote, that Scientology said they would be, or the bum, or the degraded being by leaving Scientology. Okay. Someone here on an R1 visa from Scientology, how hard would it be for one to ask for their documents, assuring they don't have them on, and essentially blow from a position somewhere like LA, working at the test center in LA? Great question, Pete. Pete Jensen, by the way, solid dude, has given me tips and things here and there, and sent videos, all kinds of good stuff. Thanks a lot, Pete. Really appreciate it. I see you. Okay, so if somebody is here on an R1 visa, the best thing for them to do is to go to their consulate. Once they get out, they can go to their consulate, from whatever country they're from, and we can help them navigate that. But the fact that Scientology forged documents in their name or surreptitiously got them into the country, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be on the hook. That's more of a Scientology thing. Um, I would recommend contacting a lawyer to find out that specializes in immigration issues. But the fact of the matter is if they're here in this country and Scientology is holding their documents, that is illegal. So if they go to the consulate and say, hey, I'm trying to go back to my country, but Scientology won't give me my passport and all that stuff, I guarantee you one call, the consulate calls that Scientology organization, they're going to have those documents lickety split. And we've seen this actually happen where Scientology is like, we don't, you ask, you say, hey, I want my documents. They say, hey, what do you want? What are you trying to get out of here? Da, 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 da. When a lawyer calls up, those documents get provided very quickly. So usually, and especially, actually, I'll say, if you have a lawyer that Scientology is aware of, who knows how their systems and internal policies are, that person is usually the most effective at getting Scientology to cooperate with them, because they know that lawyer knows how to get them in trouble, and they will, do stuff. What you mean the keyboard warriors were really only that? It's funny. This keyboard warrior thing, I think this happened. I want to say this happened back in November, December now. Um,
Yeah.
a keyboard warrior is an online activist that usually talks shit behind the keyboard. That is what a keyboard warrior is. The definition, I think if you look it up, that is what it says. I mean, not in those
Yeah.
words, but shit talker behind the keyboard. It doesn't mean that if you're an online activist, you're a keyboard warrior. There is a difference between those. But I think somebody had said, yeah, who cares about those keyboard warriors? And we were like, yeah, we're not worried about the keyboard warriors. And then somehow there was this whole thing like everybody who's on the internet is a keyboard warrior. I still don't think that that's the case, but it's all fun. It's all good. You have to, it's really crazy, the internet world. If you want to have the benefits of the internet, you have to embrace the deficits of the internet, and the fact that there are people who love to participate in hate sport. They kind of get in here and chew it up, and then Osa kind of piles in and gets kind of really stirs it up. That's how it works. So it is what it is. You get, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. I have to read this because it's fun. It says, Gay Dave will say, it says, I talk shit in front of a mic. Okay. And on my keyboard, I only feel half attacked. Yeah. Keyboard warriors aren't showing their faces, and they usually aren't saying their names. Okay. It's, Billy Bob 123. And, so yeah, it's different. I think it's different to talk shit from your person, as your actual identity, than to hide behind something. I'm not saying that one or the other is better, but I will say, you're a little bit more out there when it's you, and I think you might choose your words a little more carefully when it's coming from you, as opposed to Billy Bob 123. Again, this is where this compassion thing. So if you engage in the hate, then that's not really, I mean, I don't really think that's compassionate. So, you know, even when people are hating on us, I still like to think, well, that person's hurting, or, that person's got something going on. I don't know their situation. Maybe their dad did something that he shouldn't have done, and because he was in Scientology, it got covered. I don't know all these things. So, depending on who the person is and what their situation is, I'm going to err on the side that I don't know everything about that. So I'm not going to comment on it, or I'm not going to get involved, because I have no knowledge. I don't know what to say about it, to quote Tommy Davis. I don't know. I think if you have facts and you think people need to know them and you want to share them, that's one thing. But if it's kind of questionable and you don't know everything, then I would sort of err on the side of just staying out of it and let that person try to figure it out. Love the billboard. It was beautiful and brought tears to my eyes. Yeah, the billboard was amazing, Betsy Sue. We got that billboard up. We got in, I want to say, easily 10 times the amount of costs that we spent doing the billboard. We got that in donations within the first week or two. And the billboard ended up getting taken down by the billboard company, and they refunded us in full. So it was a great investment. Question: do you get many people from overseas Scientology properties asking for help? Yeah, we actually get people from all over the world that contact us. And I want to say we have flown people internationally to help them escape from their situation in Scientology. So, yeah, and we've got so many people that we're working with right now on different, that are in different stages and stuff like that. And yeah, we just that we're here is what we really need to be. That we're here. Like, if somebody wanted to leave Scientology and they Googled, how do I leave Scientology? And they get to the aftermath, that's it. If we're helping 20 people this month or 50, we're just going to keep doing it. And we've got more and more people that we're having join the team. We've got all these different programs and plans and procedures that are sort of being codified, and we're bringing newer members in, and so that we can kind of spread the load to have more people doing things maybe as their job or volunteering in a specific function or performing a certain duty, so that it's not only the board members, which is traditionally how it was. Only the board members were doing all the work and not really having anybody else do stuff. So now we're trying to get that. So the board is really voting and deciding different things and what direction things are going in. And then we actually have people that are doing specific functions, and they just do that all day, every day. And then emails don't get missed, and things don't slip through the cracks. Gay Dave will say it. Question: with Scientology in steep decline, have some aspects of aftermath work changed or been updated? Well, even though Scientology is in a steep decline, they've still got about, let's say, 25 to 30,000 people that are there. And I really think that the aftermath will need to be around until that's probably under a few thousand. I mean, because those people still need somewhere to go. And a lot of those people are getting old. They're aging out in Scientology, and that is, that I'm reading. I'm trying. Gay Dave will say it. Made a comment, and it just literally mind wiped me right out. I still think. As long as Scientology has people that are there that are sort of, Scientology is maybe the largest human trafficking organization in the world, because they've got people working for them for pennies on the dollar all over the world. And they, in almost all of these cases, they're taking advantage of this person who was in a country where they didn't have a place to stay, or they didn't have proper housing or food or employment, and it was rough, and they're being persecuted. And then they come to a different country, and then Scientology is like, we'll give you a job, we're going to pay you, we're going to feed you, which is all true. They do give them, maybe 2 hots and a cot, and they give them a pennies on the dollar, but that may be better than where they were before, but it doesn't mean that it's not wrong that they're taking advantage of those people. So as long as those people are out there, that is what I really think we should concentrate on, sticking around for those people until they really are not in a position where they're being taken advantage of. Okay, question: do you think that the protests are having any effect on Scientology, or they're just waiting the protesters out? I was late. Don't know if this was asked. That's a great question, Pete. Let's talk. I'm trying to think if there's a place. Well, I want to say that the Hollywood Test Center is a place where protesters had been going, And according to Jessica, is it Jessica? Jessica Palmadessa, she did a video with Claire. They shut the test center down. So did they shut the test center down because of the protesters, or did they just shut the test center down because they weren't getting any more people with the protesters there? That test center, to be honest, that test center's been there for decades. And I'm sure they do get a certain amount of people that come in and sign up for a book or whatever. I don't know that people are joining the Sea Org or joining Scientology from going to the test center, but I mean, it's there. They're certainly trying to get somebody in, and it's closed. So again, that's what I'm saying. Everybody's got their different things. Here in Denver, we have a Scientology ideal organization. You can Google it. It's on 9 News in Denver. Just say Marc Headley 9 News. They have a truck. It's the most amazing thing. It's like a trailer, and it has glass sides. And I was interviewed by the 9 News here. It's the NBC affiliate here in Denver. And I was interviewed by the investigative reporter for the news station here. And we did the interview in front of the organization. And while we were doing the interview, I don't think there was one person that walked in the whole afternoon. There was not one single person that went into the Scientology organization. And I don't know that that's because we were parked outside of it, or that's just how many people don't go into it. But they have a lot of organizations that no one's going into anyway. So whether it was shut down or not, it doesn't really matter. That Hollywood Test Center is a unique location. And it's a unique situation, but they did close it. So, bravo to the protesters that went there and caused all the nonsense. Again, how tactfully it was done, and people got arrested, and that to me, that's where it's like, when you become the story, you're not. I think this is my personal opinion. When you become the story, you're now exposing you. You're not exposing Scientology. It's all about you now. So I try to keep the focus on Scientology. If you do that, then Scientology is going to get talked about. That's my 2 cents on that. Somebody, Pete Jensen. I'm telling you, this guy's like, he's got the Google foo. The force is strong. He listed the taking your questions with Marc Headley, a former Scientologist. The funny thing is that the Scientology sent them this letter about I was the biggest criminal in the world, and the guy was sort of like, Scientology sent me this thing. I'm like, yeah, of course they did. He was like, oh, you knew? I was like, yeah, they do this every time I've ever done anything. They send this person this big binder, this giant PDF of all the nonsense. And he goes, well, I'd like to be able to at least read some of it. And I was like, oh, I don't care. Read whatever you want. He goes, well, you're okay if I read it while we're doing it? I was like, I don't care. Do it now, do it live, do it afterwards. I was like, it doesn't matter to me. People get a little weird like that. Like this person's talking shit about you, and you're gonna want to hear me talk their shit. I was like, I don't care. So stupid. I got a letter from the IRS a few weeks ago acknowledging a report that I made on Scientology last summer. You know what? If you go to Mike Render's blog, there is a list of like all the different things all the different people you could write to, your senator, your congressman, your governor, your mayor. There's all these different people that you can write to. The more people that write to those people, the more chances Scientology has of getting investigated or prosecuted for some of the things, but the more likelihood that these politicians and representatives don't fall prey to Scientology and get duped by them into supporting them or speaking at one of their events and these other sort of things. So I really think that anything that anyone does to expose Scientology kind of just gets added to the pile. And I think if we could add more productive things to more piles, that would probably be a good strategy. Mark, I would hope there is some vetting process for aftermath helpers. David Miscavige really wants to infiltrate your group. Yeah, we don't. Usually the people I want to say that the people that have been kind of volunteering, those are just people that are going to maybe give somebody a ride or have a place to stay. And even that now, we're not even really doing that much because we just pay for a hotel now. When we first started and we, had $1,000 in the bank, we weren't just like, giving out hotel stays. But now that we have we get in, regular donations and we have a little bit more resources, we could just get somebody a hotel or we can get somebody an Uber. We don't really need somebody to pick them up or, a place to stay for the most part. Gay Dave says, yeah, it's so much better to pay for a hotel than to put someone up in someone's home. People don't always get along and someone coming out of a cult is fucking traumatized. Yeah, totally. That, and that's why I said the more resources we get, the less we're relying on, those sort of things. And I don't actually think that we've had anybody that stayed with anybody per se in probably many, many months or even more than a year. They just had a few hundred Sea Org at Paris. That's a few hundred too many. Question for Mark. Do you have any idea how many Sea Org members there are in the world? Yeah, there's about 5,000 in the entire world. And when they open these new Sea Org organizations, they're taking this is a lot of people don't know this. They're just taking the Sea Org members and moving them from other organizations to that organization. So it's not like they got a few hundred more Sea Org members. They took some from AOSHEU and they took some from UK and they took some from Los Angeles and whatever Frenchies they had in the US. They said, hey, you guys are going to Paris. And they scooped those guys up and they went. So in a lot of cases, they just moved them around. So yeah. Okay, half of London was there in Paris on the weekend. Funny. Yeah, so that is the other thing. When they have one of these openings, they have to import those people. There's not all those people weren't from Paris that were at the grand opening in Paris. Those people were bussed in. They probably have 100 people in Paris that would show up for an event. You got to know when Scientology has an event and you attend it, you're getting hit up for dough. So it's not a good place to go unless you want to give them some dough. Whenever they have any sort of event or any sort of gathering, there's going to be money vultures flying around. And if you've got money, you're going to end up giving them some. Question. Are you looking into ways to find some of the older folks that they have stuffed away in housing unsuitable for them? And are they impossible to find without help from their family members? That's a great question. And I'm just going to say yes, without saying too much. Yes. We have tracked down a lot of people where they've kind of hid them off on the side. We have found some of those people and we've helped a bunch of those people escape. And Scientology knows that we kind of have a system on how to find them. And so it's making it harder and harder for them to steal them. So anyway, yes, that's a great thing. Well, Michelle's back. Thanks, Michelle. She's done picking up her kid, I guess. Okay, you tapped in. With only 30, Gay Dave again, with only 30,000 members worldwide, I find it hard to believe that many politicians are actually going to care much about the cult of Scientology. Yeah, I really don't think so. That's the other thing. Scientology, and even some of the people that fight Scientology, they think they're like this giant thing. It's not really that big in the overall scope of things. Just like YouTube's not really that big in the overall scope of things. I mean, however many people there are, let's say there's a few 100,000 people that get their Scientology content from Google and YouTube and Twitter and stuff like that. There's billions of people out there, and there's a lot of people in a lot of countries that don't see any of this content because it's in English, and that's where Scientology is really thriving right now, is in non-English areas, because there's nobody exposing them in that sort of territory. Do you ever get info about what is currently going on at the Ent base? Valeska Truax. Yes, we do actually. We get it's funny. We get sorry. We get it's really funny because we have contractors that worked at the international base or that work for any Scientology organization. We hear from a lot of those guys, and they don't really know the sort of Scientologies of what's going on, but they just tell us what they see, and then we can translate that into, like this one guy told us that they were renovating a property, and they had these Sea Org members that were just staying up all night and all day, and that some of these people would fall asleep while vacuuming. Like they would be vacuuming just all night long, and then they'd come in at 9 o'clock in the morning, and someone would be standing with the vacuum running in their hand, standing up and be asleep. And so we hear those kind of stories a lot from contractors, but then we also do have people that leave the Sea Org, and when we're trying to, they're asking questions, and a lot of Sea Org members are trying to find other Sea Org members that have escaped. So there's sort of like this network of ex Sea Org members and ex Scientologists that exists, that can sort of track down somebody that you used to know, or you used to work with, or you used to have a relationship with, or whatever. And so a lot of Sea Org members that escape, they're really just trying to track down their friends. And in the course of tracking down their friends, they track down some SPs here and there. And then sometimes that's what gets them out. So, question, how is Mike? Hope he's okay. It's Mike Rinder's birthday today, guys. You could go to his channel and tell him happy birthday. Mike's doing great. I mean, he's doing as great as he can, as far as I know. I'm actually going to call him later. But yeah, he's basically got to take medications, and he's got to, just play it really cool, and constantly monitor everything to be able to manage what he's got. And anyway, it sucks, but he's still around, which is great. That's not, I mean, a year ago, we really genuinely thought that we were going to lose him. So there was a few months where it was pretty hit and miss there. And yeah, having other nonsense happening at the same time was not the most productive situation to be in the middle of. Robert Paulson, have you discovered any new cracker experiences in the past 6 months? I don't eat crackers. This whole cracker thing, I thought I was going to be able to capitalize. For those who don't know, Scientology said that I eat crackers. I actually lick the salt off of crackers and then give them to people. I don't ever remember doing that. And if I did, it might have been a joke. Like I said that I did it, but I didn't really do it. It was just me joking around. But regardless, my body type does not do well to eat a lot of crackers. I just, it kind of messes up my system. So I was going to do this thing where I was going to do cracker reviews on my channel, and I was like, I had graphics and everything made for it. I was going to do like 1 to 5 licks was going to be my cracker scale, and if it's the amazing cracker, I was going to give it 5 licks, and if it was not so great, I'd give it 1 lick. And somebody sent me, I don't even remember who it was now. I think it was Dr. X and a few different people. They sent me just hundreds of bags of crackers. And as I started to taste these different crackers, which some of them were very tasty, I got very sick. I had to stop eating the crackers. Anyway, so yeah, no more crackers for me, Robert. I have not discovered any new cracker experiences. Michelle, you only have to lick them. You don't have to eat them. Yeah, I don't enjoy licking them. I enjoy the eating part. It's just my body doesn't. Does Mark lick tacos too? No, I don't lick a lot of anything. I mostly eat. I lick lollipops. I know that, but and ice cream. Glad to see someone retire from cracker life. Oh, God. Have you had success with the missing people directory? Yeah, we're still building that up. But the funny thing is that she was asking, have we had any success? We have a thing on the Aftermath Foundation website, aftermathfoundation.org, where if you're looking for somebody, you can post it there, and then we'll add it to the database. And if somebody else notices that and they know where that person is, then they'll say. A lot of people that we've done that when I said this network of people that could locate other people, that is essentially what that was put there to solve, is just try to help track people down without having to figure out who's still in Scientology, who's not still in Scientology, who's going to rat you out, who's not going to rat you out. Just have a place where all those people can kind of network with anonymously. Dave's got a question. Do you find that people often hold to the cult's views on mental health? I think it varies by person, but I think in a lot of cases, if people that grew up in, like myself, people who grew up in Scientology or grew up in the Sea Organization, they either take everything they learned and they bring it with them and then they kind of weed through it. Or in cases like me, I just assume that anything that I learned in that is just wrong. So that's sort of how I do it. I start like, this is an empty slate. Let's be willing to try things that we wouldn't be willing to try before, and let's see how it goes. Excuse me. So yeah, I think that's how I don't know about everybody else, but some people are, I think Scientologists generally are, I don't know. I think they generally don't believe in mental health because they've been told so many things by Scientology, because the mental health industry is Scientology's main competition. So of course they're going to talk shit about it. So if you kind of look at it from that viewpoint, that's where I go like, well, of course they talk smack about them, because if you're giving your money to a mental health professional, then you are definitely not going to be giving it to Scientology. Totally. And what's the craziest part of that is that in Scientology, they shit talk mental health. I would argue that the mental health professional is maybe your best chance at navigating and deciphering the very thing that we're talking about. What of this is real and what of this is not real, and what of this is valid and what of this is not valid. And I want to say, until the last few years, I myself was like, if people want to do therapy, fine. But the little therapy that I've experienced was mind-blowing, coming from the Scientology world. And Scientology is really it's a crazy rules-based system, and the rules were made up by a guy who was arguably, at least a good portion insane. And he was trying to rid himself of these space aliens the entire time. And until his death, when he died, he was still trying to get rid of space aliens from himself. And so if you're going to say that's the guy who's going to be the expert on mental health, I'm going to say maybe that's not the best guy. So it's a crazy crazy world. What I was gonna look question. Oh, what do you think of Tori being back out with the streamers? If Tori's out there with the streamers, good for her. Tori, I want to say Tori might be the longest continually protesting protester and even YouTuber out there. And again, she does it. I want to say she's retired, semi-retired at least, or she's definitely not working a full-time job. I don't think. Maybe she is now. I don't know. I haven't talked to her in forever, but I think she did an interview with Claire a few months back. But yeah, if Tori lives in Los Angeles, she can easily go over to the organization and hang out with the streamers. I think it's great. She's OG. She's an OG Scientology protester. So if she wants to join in and do it, great. I mean, I think it's amazing. And like I said, it's just not my thing, because there's nobody at Denver. If I went to protest in Denver, there'd be like 2 other people that would go. There's nothing happening, and there's no one going there. So it's sort of like, it's why even bother? Yeah, I found Tori first or maybe second. I've had Tori on. Great. Yeah, Tori's great. I mean, and also Tori's in a unique position too, because Tori used to work for Scientology to get stuff taken off the internet when the internet was first kind of showing up on Scientology's radar. So Tori she really does genuinely have both sides of the internet perspective and OSA and what OSA was involved with. And so yeah, it says someone is protesting Denver most days. Yeah. So literally, there is at least one regular streamer in Denver. Yeah, if somebody's messaged us about this. If there were two people at Denver, you could film each other though. Yeah. Question: did you hear about the insanely stupid Claire Headley owns 2 private jets rumor that we have thoroughly debunked and put that to bed? You know, somebody sent me this, and I wish I owned 2 private jets, folks. Anybody that knows Claire and I knows that Claire does. She has a bookkeeping company. We're very open about this. I have a few companies. Claire has a few companies. We both are, I think relatively successful at what we do, and we make a good living, and we support our family, and we have a very nice life that we provide. But Claire, I want to say, how do I say this? Claire does do work for other people outside of her bookkeeping company. And she actually updates the avionics for private jets, and she does that on a regular basis. She is amazing like that. That's the craziest thing in the world. Like I should be ashamed if let's just say I did have 2 private jets. Now I'm the bad guy because I have 2 private jets. It's like it's just a weird. It's a weird to me. It's kind of crazy. Like, oh my God, Claire has 2 private jets. It's like, what? Like, that's a bad thing. But to be honest, we do not own Claire, nor do Claire or I or any of our companies or controlled interests. So we can put that to bed. And thank you for anybody who stuck up for us somewhere for not owning jets. Jetgate. Yeah, it took like 15 minutes to debunk it as a person wanting to make a point hadn't looked further. In the first document, we did find out it was a client of Claire's, and Claire was just the registered agent. Yeah, exactly. There you go. That makes perfect sense. Jets, who cares if you have 2 jets? It was OSA. PS 100%. Yeah, I don't know who did that, but either way, I don't think these people know how much these jets cost. These jets, one of these kind of jets cost $1 million a pop. So you're not paying for that. The other thing is, they have services like Uber for jets. If you really do need to get somewhere fast, and that's and then it's done. It really only works to have one of these private jets if you're a pilot and you like flying and you like going places. Then it's kind of useful to have a jet. But if you're not that kind of person, it's not really economical to have one of these jets. It's more of like it's kind of like I want to say if you're a pilot, it's your hobby kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe if you want to be status and you got G5s or whatever the rappers or whatever the kids are doing with the jets, whatever the jet kids are doing, maybe that's a status thing. They were also someone else's planes with propellers. Yeah, that's true. They're not even jets. They're prop planes. That's another thing. That person's right. Wow, this person even researched it. I don't know how they found all this out, but yes, they are planes with propellers. They're turboprops. Not even jets, not even remotely jet territory. Here, Dave. Hey, Dave's dead bullseye. A private jet is actually a big status symbol and a waste of money. Chartering one is so much more cost effective. Now, who knows more about jets now? I think Gay Dave might own a jet himself, or maybe he's chartering one, or maybe he's just knowledgeable in the field of aviation. Okay. They were implying you paid for jets with foundation funds. Yeah, from before the foundation was a thing. Like a G6. There you go, Gay Dave. I'm reading Janice's first book right now, How to Read BFG Twice, because wow, it's true, Dave rules. Yeah, I was reading when I went to go listen to my book in the past few days to get ready for this, so I would be refreshed on what I wrote in the book. Because a lot of people don't know I wrote the book. It was probably twice as long as the book that's out. And then while I was writing it, Claire was reading books on how to produce books, and I was just writing the books. And and so then she said, "Oh, it has to be 400 has to be under 400 pages." So I want to say the cheat book. I got one right here actually. I got a cheat in case I needed anybody asked me some questions. 384 pages. So just under 400. But so it was about 800 pages, and Claire said, "Yeah, you got to take out about half of that." So then I went through and I just took out the chapters that were just like too much, just techno jargon and me, doing stupid technical things with cassettes and videos and films and stuff like that. And we just try to keep it to most of the crazy Scientology stuff, and that's how it ended up being what it was being. So a lot of times I think things are in the book and they're not because we cut it out. And so I thought I better listen to this thing again. And one of the comments I on the Audible version I saw, or is it on Audible? Yeah, Audible. Comments said, I didn't think it was going to be that good or great because this guy obviously is not a writer and he's obviously not a book narrator either. I constantly tell people that when they because I don't talk about the science. Like if we were having a party or something, we were having an Easter party a few weeks ago, and a bunch of neighbors and their family and stuff like that came, and somehow Claire and them got to talking, and the next thing I know, one of them is holding a copy of like, "Hey, how are you guys doing?" And I go, "Oh God, where'd you get that?" And like, "Oh, your wife gave it to me." I'm like, "Now listen, I'm not a writer, and I haven't even read that many books. So, you're on your own. Just read it at your own risk." Um, anyway, this person in the Audible review, they said that they kind of warmed up to it, and then they really liked it, and it was a 5-star review. So, but I think that the reason I don't really talk it up like that is because I'm not a writer of books. Really, it's not my main profession, and also I don't narrate audiobooks. And so the fact that anybody's willing to listen to it is great. Talk about people having personal issues with you when you were at Gold, but you don't talk about me when you low love on the bridge. Yeah, in the C organization, nobody really cares trained in Scientology or you're high up on the counseling, because in the Sea Org you really don't get a lot of counseling or training. It's not, and so the people that are high up, they're sometimes even looked at as lower than, because they spent time on themselves instead of doing the work. If you could understand what I'm saying, it'd be like if we're all here to do work and you're off getting your nails and your hair did full time. Well, you're not here doing the work. In the Sea Org, getting auditing and getting counseling or doing training on how to be a Scientologist, if that's not your job, is sort of selfish and sort of looked down upon. And David Miscavige would call those people FCCIs, which means a flag case or course intensive. It just means somebody who's paying for Scientology. And the people that he would shit talk the most about were those people that paid for Scientology, or people that were all about me, me, me. I'm going to get me better. Those are sort of the people that are looked down. The people that get shit done, those are the people in the Sea Org that get promoted or they get put on executive posts. So it wasn't. So the question said, but did anyone talk about your low level on the bridge when you were posted to executive positions? No, never, because I was getting stuff done when I was getting stuff done. That's really all they care about at the end of the day. What have you done for me lately? They don't give a shit about your OT5. Also, these OT people that were at the base, they were flat ball bearings. They were useless. They couldn't organize themselves out of a wet paper bag. They were pretty, it was actually kind of comical. Like you're OT8, but you can't figure out how to get anything done in life. It's almost like the only people who care about how high someone went up the bridge are the anti-Scientology community. Yeah, really, it's almost, well, in Scientology, so let me be very clear. In the Sea Org, That's how it is. If you're an OT8, you're the bomb diggity. You're the king of the OT8, of the OTs. If you're OT8, you're the highest level in the club. And I do want to say that I was talking earlier about how these rich Scientologists, the ones that make all this money, a lot of them are making money off Scientologists. A lot of them are using the Scientology network, like the chiropractors, the dentists, and they're ripping off all those guys, but they're using Scientology to do it. So that's why they got to, that really tall guy, Jay Spina, these type of guys that are doing Medicare fraud, and they're just getting millions and millions of dollars through their phony or ripping off practices. Those guys donating and those guys training and becoming high level OTs, they're playing the game in that little club. And so in that club, it is, oh, are you on 7? Or, oh, you're on 8, or how long have you been on 7? And when are you planning to do 8? That's a big thing in that world. And if you haven't read Dianetics and you're in that world, yeah, you're not going to do very well. They want you to be, you kind of got to level up to play with those guys. But yeah, the protesters do, or the anti-Scientology people exposing Scientology, is very very kind of fascinated on the OT levels, even though really the only thing you really do on the OT levels is learn about the space aliens. That's pretty much the majority of the OT levels are about the space cooties and how to get rid of them and why all your problems are from the space cooties. And like I said, L. Ron Hubbard never finished OT 9 and 10, and he was still trying to exercise space cooties until his final days. OT9 is where you learn how to set the clock on your microwave. Yeah, and VCR. OT10 is if you know how to hook up any printer. I'm like OT17 then. I can hook up a printer like nobody's. I might not be able to show up to this on time or get my audio working, but I can hook up a printer like a boss, like an OG techie. Grifter's gonna grift. Hail XENU. Yeah, I really do think that the XENU thing, I wish more people would talk about XENU, because the XENU thing doesn't get a lot of play in Scientology. That is really the secret that Scientology uses to kind of get all this money out of all these people. They're going to get these secret operating Satan levels where they're going to get all these OT powers. And the only thing they really do is to kind of become exterminators for space cooties. For invisible cooties at that. But if you think about it, XENU, he was an intergalactic dictator. He somehow moved billions and billions of people from multiple planets in another star system, and then he traveled many light years to get to Earth, and he transported all of those billions of people. When he came here to Earth, he dumped them into volcanoes, and then he built these hovering collecting things to then capture their souls as they were escaping from the volcanoes. And then he programmed them by showing them pictures of the flood and the man on the cross and angels and all these different things. And then those billions of souls inhabited, all the humans that are on Earth now. And that's Scientology's main enemy, the intergalactic dictator, Lord XENU. The thing I want to say is, let's pretend it's real. Just say this intergalactic Lord XENU did all this. We know he's capable of traveling between planets. At least he's capable of light speed travel with cargo. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of planes, these that like DC-10s with jets on them, that were filled with all these aliens. And then he's capable of collecting them with hovering sky mechanisms and then programming them with projectors and videos and all these things. And your guy is a 413 guy named Dave. That's it. That's your guy with the pompadour hairdo. I'm putting my money on Lord XENU all day, every day. Okay. So I think, and also it does seem silly that he didn't put them in the glycol and get the souls out before he brought them, because souls would cease than full alien bodies. He could have done that whole soul transfer and programming thing back on the other planets, but for some reason, I don't know, maybe some logistical reason that Lord XENU chose to do all that heavy lifting here on Earth. Maybe the lower gravity, or well, I don't know. Who knows what his reasons were. But the thing that I want to say is, if we talk about XENU, that makes them look even crazier. That they believe that, but they still have their money on this guy named Dave. Dave got tax exemption. Lord XENU ran a whole star system. Okay. I just think it's funny. And also, Tom Cruise has been practicing. Tom Cruise has been practicing. You think he's been doing movies for you. He's been practicing every different way to kill an alien. He's killing them with germs in World of Worlds. He's skipping time in Enter Tomorrow. Tom Cruise is doing the work to figure out how they're going to yeah, Tom Cruise is practicing on how to destroy XENU. Meanwhile, he can't even keep a wife together. He can't even stay together with a wife for more than a few years. So between him and Dave, my money's on Lord XENU full time, and I think that's really the best way we can end this. I think. I really do love doing these kind of things when people have questions and we can just interact and we can just have fun. And I think when there's a lot of nastiness and there's a lot of hate and there's just a lot of, whatever you want to call it, hate sport. I like to call it hate sport. Yeah, when there's a lot of hate sport, not only does it not make it fun, but then I just rather do something else that I do know. Like I'm going fishing with my youngest, or, we're going to go, motorcycle riding or something like that I know I'm going to have fun. And so it doesn't really do the people that are trying to expose Scientology. It doesn't really, I don't know how you could have, I just don't know how much you could have so much hate. It's just a weird thing to be aggro about instead of trying to just expose it productively. That's what I'd like to say. Nice. Thank you, guys. Thanks for everybody. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks everybody who did this. Thanks for everybody who organized this. And then, yeah, if you guys, we can do it again once you guys go through a bunch of other books. If you guys want to just do a Q&A, I love doing them. And if they're kind of moderated like this and they're productive, then awesome, perfect. I appreciate you guys. Thank. Bye. And Dancer and Prancer and Donner and Blixen. Okay, Pete. Whatever you got going there with the reindeer.